Spirit of Truth, the podcast. I am your host, Dr. Sherry Walker-Shy. Welcome to another episode. We're so excited about what's taking place, and we're so excited about everything that's happening for Spirit of Truth. Thank you so much for joining in with us. We have our guest today, Miss Cheryl Miles Board. We welcome Cheryl to the show. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Awesome. She's such a beautiful and such a bright light. So and has such a wonderful personality. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining us.
Thank you.
So
thank you for inviting me.
Jump right in to the interview. Cheryl is a grief counselor and a nonprofit specialist. And it's so amazing to have heard some of her story. She started, telling me her testimony, but I asked her to save it for our listeners and to save it for the show. But, I am just myself in grief even now with the recent passing of a very, very dear friend of mine who I was friends with for 30 years. And so Cheryl has a testimony of grief. I have friends who have lost children who were, some were murdered, some passed away to car accidents and to illnesses. But the grieving heart of a mother is one that's unexplainable. I haven't lost a child, but my child was shot. And so I know the trauma that these things cause. So we're gonna just open up and let Cheryl tell us about her testimony and give us her testimony. And we know that it will encourage you through whatever it is that you may be experiencing, whether it's grief or not. But we're gonna let Cheryl tell us her story.
Well, first of all, again, thank you for having me. And what I want to explain is grief does not have to be the loss of a person. It can even be something that's traumatic that's just happened in your life. But my testimony started out one day I came home and my ex-husband had gotten involved and started to using drugs. And so our situation became a domestic violence situation. And being at that time a mother of three, I ended up packing my children up literally in one suitcase, our things, and walking out the door. And so that starts out as a big loss.
As grief. Yes, that starts out as grief. Right.
It does, because it's very easy for people to say, oh, you should have left, or you just pack up and leave. It's not. And when I did it to start with, the laws were very different. I happen to be 63 years old. So when they ended up doing it back then in the 80s, in the early 80s, the woman who was abused had to be the one to file the charges. And that's very, very hard to do when you have a baby clinging on your leg because they're scared. They don't understand why mom and dad are fighting or the extent of the fight. So I didn't recognize it at the time, but that started my grief journey. And then I moved from New York to Georgia, and my dad had gotten diagnosed with leukemia, and we drove from Georgia to New York, which we were quite accustomed to doing. It was sort of like a regular run for us. And we were 15 minutes from home, told everybody, okay, good night, we'll see you tomorrow. And the back tire blew on the car. My eldest daughter was driving, and she took her foot. I told her to take her foot off the gas, and I took my seatbelt off to tell her what to do. And that was my last memory until I awoke 6 weeks later.
Wow.
So I was in a coma for 6 weeks. And I had gone through, I got life lifted from the accident site to the hospital. And I was told I was given a tracheotomy at the accident site. Both my lungs had collapsed, so they
Wow.
had to try to intubate me. I had 9 broken ribs, a lacerated liver, torn stomach, broken pelvic. I fractured the T5 and 6 in my back, which is right in the center of your back,
Right.
and the C1 and 2 of my neck, which is attached to the brainstem.
Mm.
I had a head trauma injury. I had dislocated this shoulder, broke this wrist, and my right ankle.
Mm.
And so when I awoke, I was literally in a full body cast.
Body cast. Wow.
Of course, my first inclination was, how are the kids? And because they had only given me a 20% chance to live, the doctors told my family not to tell me that my daughter Laura had died in the accident.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there, and I was working at Grady Hospital at the time, and I knew, believe it or not, that Grady had the top #1 trauma
Right.
unit because I had just installed it. And I kept saying, I want her moved. I want her moved. I didn't care about myself, but I wanted her moved. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to be okay, because everybody else knew
Right.
that, only I didn't. Well, a few days later is when they did tell me. And needless to say, you first go through that, taking that deep breath. And there was a joke that my daughter was telling me just prior to the accident. And God, he's such a wonderful God, because he took my brain right there to that moment that we were laughing. And that's that moment when I heard the news. I remembered laughing at something she had said to me, because I didn't know how to accept that grief at that moment, that I lived and she didn't. So I went through that process, and I couldn't attend the funeral or anything because I was in the coma. So I got to do none of that process that helps you go through it.
That helps you heal a little bit.
Yeah, that helps you heal. And as I mentioned, we had driven to New York. My dad had been diagnosed with leukemia. And shortly, within not quite a year after, he ended up passing. And I'm an only child. I have no siblings. So I was a daddy's girl.
Wow.
And so here it is. My daughter's gone, and now my dad is gone. A year later, my youngest daughter gets meningococcal meningitis.
Wow.
And it also made her brain swell. So she was having seizures. And we took her to the hospital. And again, we have a wonderful God. We don't always know why, or that we do. But I was sleeping at the hospital, and I came home to take a shower.
Wow.
And we get a phone call. And we had to rush to the hospital, because lying in the hospital bed, she had developed a blood clot. And it traveled to her heart. And at 18 years old, we lost her.
Wow.
And I sat there and I said, dear God, what did I do in my life that was so terrible that not only did you take one, and now you've taken another? And because I didn't get to do anything for my first daughter's funeral, I had to do everything for my second daughter. And as I was looking for a poem or a hymn to put on the back of her program, God took me to this poem called A Conversation Between God and a Parent.
Wow.
And the poem says that our children are angels only on loan to us for a moment. And don't be upset with me if I should call that angel home sooner than you think that I should. But no, out of all the thorns in life's lane, I've chosen this angel to learn from you. So never think it's what you do wrong. It's what you do right. And once you complete the task I need you to complete, I can then call that angel home to do the job I need them to do.
Wow.
So walk this walk with me. That was my aha moment. That was when I saw that God instilled in me. And there were some other things that happened in childhood. One being straight hair, light skin. I'm an African American child and still had to learn how to fight my battles from both sides, from a white side and a black side, because neither side wanted to accept me. But that toughness is what I knew God was putting in for me as a child to be prepared for this.
Wow.
And once I read that poem in the quiet of listening to him, I heard him say, "You are a preparer."
Wow.
You are to prepare people for the gifts that I have for them in life.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
So that gave me my purpose. It gave me my direction. It gave me my marching orders. And it gave me my aha moment, this is why God had done, this is why my life was this way, to make me strong enough, to be strong enough not only to learn my lessons, but to help others learn theirs.
Amazing.
Well, that was then. And then that following year, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. And the January of that following year, I lost her.
Wow.
So then I go through, now this is 2003, 2004, 2005, and my mom dies January of 2007. And when you just think that you've gone through everything you could go through, then I got diagnosed with cancer.
Oh, wow.
Luckily for me, because I knew my history of my parents, I was going like every 6 months and getting tested. So they caught mine right on the onset.
Awesome.
And 12 years, I've been cancer free. So,
praise God.
You know, it's like, I always compare myself sometimes, you know, when you try to find a story in the Bible and say that's your path.
Job, huh?
There you go. There you go.
Yes.
Harm her or give her, meaning me, your worst. Because she will stand.
Yes.
And then in 2012, my husband's only daughter, who I had raised from a little girl, she was a correction officer. And they told her she had bronchitis and sent her home. And then they said it was double pneumonia. And unbeknownst to all of us, somewhere through the system and the job, she had turned out HIV positive. No symptoms, no nothing.
Wow.
And so out of all my children, she was the only one that had a child. And day before yesterday, that little girl turned 18. And I've been raising her since she was 6 years old. And to watch her turn 18, it's bittersweet. She'll be attending Howard University next year.
Oh, awesome.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And she's remarkable. She's my mini me. She's my she's the reason I wake up in the morning.
Yes.
I do have a son as well. Um, and he just had a little boy. So I have a 17-month-old grandson.
Awesome.
And, but it's like my girls knew they weren't going to be here. And they each brought a child into our household, which we ended up adopting. So
Oh,
through them, I have other grandchildren. But my house has always been full and full of love and laughter. And even in the moment of tears, we found a reason just to come together and love one another.
that's beautiful, Cheryl.
You know? So it's in their memory that I started my nonprofit.
Oh, awesome.
And my nonprofit is called the Nonprofit Consortium. And what it is, it started out just helping other nonprofits. And then we started developing programs ourselves, mainly with my life and my girls' lives in mind. We started Operation Prom, and that's because my girls got to wear prom dresses but never got to wear a wedding dress.
Yes.
And in the 6 years, we've dressed 394 young ladies.
Oh, tell us about that. Tell us about that program, Cheryl.
Yeah, we
A little bit more.
what I do is I send out every year letters to the guidance counselors
At school, high schools.
in the high schools, right? DeKalb County, Rockdale County, and Newton County. But I don't turn any county down.
Right.
You know, other counties have heard what I do, and they'll call and, well, have you got any dresses left, or can you take on a few more girls? So nobody gets turned away. And even if I'm low on dresses, we find them. We find them. And then 2 years ago, I started working with Conyers Baptist Church, and they have a special needs prom with our children of all ages that can attend a prom. They do for them.
Oh,
and that prom, as we know, our especially our girls, when they go to proms, they're prima donnas. But the special needs prom, those individuals, they light you up so much, because for each child that comes out, you know what their special needs are. So if they can't take loud noises, you know, you applaud this way. And they come out and they pose, and they get their pictures taken. And
it's a joy, huh?
It is. And they get driven around the parking lot in a limousine. So they come out of the limousine and they mark their pose, and they get applauded and photographed while they go inside for their prom. And we dress some of the parents for those kids that need assistance as well. So yeah, so that's been the last wonderful. I shouldn't say the last 2 years because we were pandemic, but 2 years prior was the time.
Well, I have some things that I can donate to you.
Oh yeah, I always tell ladies. And then we started dressing young men also just before the pandemic. So when I go out and I make announcements, I go, gentlemen, that tuxedo that you wore the day you got married, you know is never going to fit you anymore. That 6-pack has become a keg. And although we still love you, send the suit this way.
Send the suit. Awesome. Well, tell us quickly about the other nonprofit that you have, the purse.
Yeah, the other things that we do is we do purses with a purpose, and we make those accessible to people of domestic violence, having been a domestic violence survivor. And a lot of organizations do the shoe boxes and that kind of stuff. No disrespect to what they do at all.
Right.
But who wants to walk around with a shoebox? You know? So we get gently used handbags, and some people actually buy brand new handbags. And through donations that we get, we purchase Visa gift cards to put in so they can use it in any store. I have a relationship with Cricket cell phone company, and the phones that people turn in, they leave them so that they can at least dial 911 with it. So that's put in the bags as well. There's underwear, socks, toothbrushes, toothpaste. And I have relationships with quite a number of Lyft and Uber drivers, and they volunteer and give me a card that has a code on it. And when the young lady calls, and actually we've taken some of the things out of the purses and put them in like a duffel bag, because we do have some young men that are domestic violence survivors
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that goes in the bag. And if they need a ride and they call the Uber or Lyft person with that code, they will pick them up
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
take them to
amazing.
the nearest shelter. So we try to cover, so they have some money if they need to get something to eat. They have a ride. They have where they can file their police report, and at least a change of underwear and toothbrush and toothpaste to get away and think about what's going to happen next.
Well, you have some very, very awesome programs and nonprofit organizations, and I'm just so happy to learn of a lot of what you're doing, because I know tons of people. People are always contacting me for some resources or another, so it's great to
Yeah.
be able to have that
We
information to
we
share
also
with them.
do we also do dress for the job you want.
Hmm.
And we partner with the Atlanta Regional Commission and the WIA program,
Okay.
so that they can get trained, because a lot of people don't know, um, just about every county in Georgia, even if it's not through the Atlanta Regional Commission, they
Hmm.
have, whether it's workforce development or whatever, have the program, because the WIA program is a federal program where
Okay.
they will pay for them to go to school and get an associate's degree, get certified in healthcare, cosmetology. I
Hmm.
mean, there's about 2,000 different certifications that they
And this
allow.
this information is really good for our
Yeah,
up and coming graduates,
yes,
and even those who are graduating high school as well as college. So this
and
is
not
this
only
is
that,
amazing.
but but if you are, if the pandemic puts you out of your job and you need to be retrained,
Okay.
they will pay for that as well. Um, any type of need that you have, and you're jobless, they try to get you the training so you can get that job.
Oh,
And
awesome.
a lot of people don't realize that that is here in Georgia at all. And the other thing that a lot of employers, if you are an entrepreneur and you're
Hmm.
looking for employees, that program also will give you employees or help you pay your employees. They will pay
Oh,
up to they will pay up to 90% of that employee's salary,
wow.
if in your business, so that you will train them as long as you guarantee them a job for at least 2 years. There's a lot of programs that Georgia has that, just because the information doesn't get out there to them, that a lot of people don't realize it.
Okay. Well, awesome. And thank you so much for sharing. This has been great, resourceful information, and I'm sure that you will get a lot of contacts for this information, and
Let me give you
through.
my phone number so that if anybody needs to contact me, they can call me directly, or of course
Okay,
call you as well.
you can go ahead and
I
state that.
Sure. It's been the same phone number for 17 years. It's not going anywhere. So it's 678-463-7725. And anytime, we also do training for women how you can start a job with little to no money, or start your own business with little to no money. So that's another thing that we offer. So give us a call. We'll try to help you with whatever resources we can and put you on the direction to rock 2022.
Awesome. And put you on in a direction to success. Thank you so much,
Absolutely,
Cheryl,
because that's what it's all
for
about.
being with us today. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for just being the woman of God that you are. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
All
God
right.
bless you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Awesome. This is some wonderful information. Please share the information. Please share this broadcast. this episode with everyone, friends, relatives, colleagues, to get this information out. It's some really, really good information. And thank you all so much once again for tuning in with us. Now, if you would like to be a guest on Spirit of Truth, the podcast, please email us at spiritofTruthPodcast@gmail.com. Listen to the podcast on Google, Spotify, iHeart, Deezer, Podchaser, or your favorite podcast outlet. You can also watch by downloading the PGN TV network on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, ISO Android, and mobile apps, Cross TV, or watch via the web app at www.pgntv.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Please also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Spirit of Truth, the podcast. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you. Until next time.